2021, a year of real ups and downs. And it kicked off with a lockdown, a second lockdown, miserable. The weather was awful, nothing like the first lockdown. But at least Mum got vaccinated, and pretty soon after that I got vaccinated, which I found a really uplifting experience going over the seven. I saw a lot of Margaret and Seamus. We were in the same bubble, so to speak, and they took me out for walks and watched rugby and fed me, which was very nice. They did get stuck on their lawn. Daniel was doing his masters and going slightly mad. I have to say, boy went mad, but he never found out who killed his bonsai tree, an appalling crime. We saw a lot of Bronwyn walking the doggies and went up to the top of the escarpment, which is a complete mud pool by now. And Mel came up all along the A40. We were very excited about the house coming along. We'd moved in and taken up residence, and we were quite comfortable. This is the bedroom. The boiler just about made it through the winter. It's kind of faded glory. Very nice. And the neighbours doing up their house next door. Steve finishing the garage, which is good, and turning it into a beautiful room pour moi to live in with the main construction. The garden, we started doing the planting. Here's Daniel ripping up the knot garden, and Suna came along to take away all of those bushes. And then Keith turned the knot garden into a gravel garden, complete with cherry trees. I'm very pleased about it. And then suddenly it was springtime, and here's Roy and Karma looking beautiful under their magnolia tree, and Margaret looking just as beautiful under her cherry tree. Daniel and Matthew bought their dad a beer in the beer garden, and Mum had a sherry with old friends, Susie and Lucy doing a fantastic job at looking after Mum. Mel having a good old gossip in the garden with her squad, and the kids likewise. The cherry trees went into blossom for at least as long until the pigeons got them. We don't like the pigeons. And the two elder quacks moved into Quackney Town, and Mel's parents having a nice time in their garden. Here's the princess with Daniel looking, and I went off with my boyfriend Griff to watch the football. Also went to London town, even if it was kind of strangely deserted. And Mel and I have taken to walking down canals, because Mel is a senior member of the Canal Trust. Looking lovely here, I have to say. And Philip and Catherine went for meals in their lovely town garden. Mel has a one-woman vendetta against Groundell. She enrolled Bronwyn. Bronwyn was useless, and this is poor old Mel afterwards. So that's, I had to do the turf cutting. The turf cutter weighed about 3/4 of a tonne. But you can see suddenly the garden's starting to look nice. Daniel and Glyn here doing even more planting. And the fabulous Baker boys, they wanted to get in on the act as well. So yes, the garden looking good. Took opportunities to take Mum out for coffee and take Seamus out for beers, which he loves, going down to Oxwich Bay looking absolutely beautiful. Before you knew where we were, the removal boys were here. Steve had moved his office into number 16, and I'd taken Mum for her last walk in Abbey Grounds. Because the summer was here, and everything, all the restrictions seemed rather pointless at this point. Margaret had a fantastic party for Mum's 97th, but unfortunately this marked the moment at which she went into her home. It was time really, but summer was all about us. The outdoor pool was open. They tried to have a mini jazz festival, which was really nice to see, and went off into Imperial Square with Bronwyn and Mike and the gang. This Italian here, delirious that Italy won the football, and then back to Swansea where Mr. Eccles was in residence trying to kill himself by sliding off his bike, but still here, and dragging me out onto the beach at midnight where it was looking good. Daniel was keeping a beady eye on the scaffolders who were breaking every single health and safety rule there was. Keith had enrolled himself an army, and Steve had a rival army, so there you are. But basically they were ripping the house to shreds. We were nervous wrecks looking at all this kind of coming down. Where are they going to stop? There's the loves of Daniel's life. And we went up to the lavender fields with Bronwyn. It was amazing. Meanwhile, the quacks were moving in, which is very good to see. Ellie here now having herself a trendy pad. I do think that Pete and Tina should get a room. Come on. And Gordon, scaring the locals up in Newcastle, went for a great trip doing walks on the moors and playing silly games. So that was a good time with the boys. Mel keeping all the boys here under strict control. And at some point, yes, we're going to start rebuilding the house. And here comes Amir with the props and Keith orchestrating. They're looking very pleased with themselves because the house hasn't fallen down. Steels are remarkably thick and it's not going anywhere. Matthew was around the place, came to see Granny, which is very nice indeed. And he's setting up home with Big Sam in Bristol. That's good. And Mel has gone vegan. And Dom's got a bit of height competition here. And Daniel's hugging Arthur and hugging Granny, which is very, very nice to see. Before abandoning me going to London town. So we went to London town, saw Lucy and Rob. There we are, opposite old Sons of the Thames Rowing Club. So in Hammersmith. So back down to Swansea with Seamus, walk on an amazingly misty day, come round into the bay, all the mist had gone, so trying to make the most of Swansea. The pump house is looking fantastic, but unfortunately it is time to say goodbye to Swansea. Daniel moved out of Uncle David's into his own flat, and Mel and I went on a little trip. We went off to see the treasures of Sutton Hoo. And we had a great time walking down the River Lee and looking at the swans flying. I actually got out the house, got to a stately home, and packed a load in 2 or 3 days, including the highlight of the trip, Ipswich. What a beautiful place. I can recommend it to you all. David took the boys to the football against Fulham, and the Quacks took their mum out for a birthday meal, which was really nice. So we moved into the autumn, and here we are at the Lunds having a lovely dinner party, and you think, oh, can this continue? But the kind of storm clouds were gathering. Matthew had got teacher training at Cheltenham College, which was fantastic because Daniel had abandoned me. Had I said that? Yes, but Matthew was there. We had meals together. That was fantastic. And we went off to the cinema. And that was good. Thomas was doing his scuba diving. Went on a tour of Bristol and all the kind of art and what have you. Matthew was now moved in with Sam. David was doing the Swansea half marathon. I was on the kind of beaches at Oxford. Here my lovely neighbours, Alan and Nick, and here's the football crowd. Megan's living there now. Went off to a wedding, Susan and Philip. Very, very happy occasion. That was nice to see. And then the holiday. I went on a plane, a big white plane. Went up to the sky and it was warm and we had sardines, and then before you knew it was all over. But actually had one trip aboard, and this is Matthew in the pub after we'd seen Dune, which we gave 10 out of 10 to. Keith did a power grab on Steve's office, and Daniel and Rob love panettone. They love it, and Arthur loves it as well, so that was very good to see. Can't take my car into London town anymore, but here I am with fellow philosophers of British Museum, and here are the workers on the way to the office. And yes, Gordon had my passport all along. Back down the canals, we do love going down canals. Remembrance Sunday, which is Thomas's birthday. Susie came to see Mum, which was very, very kind of her. And the house is actually taking shape. Actually kind of construction now, on to kind of plastering. You can see that all taking shape. The roof's just about done, which is excellent. That tin roof had been up for 4 or 5 months. And just here you have Guns and Lee doing the finishing touches. Remarkable job being done on the woodwork as well. And Amir and Guns here right till the end. But unfortunately, another wave. Yes, testing and jabbing, and we did cards, but you think, ooh, is Christmas going to be cancelled? Thomas came up for the races, which is a good way to catch COVID as any. Helped with the garden, but the big question mark was, would Christmas take place? We saw Mum on Christmas Day at her home, and then took silly photographs of the boys. Seamus pretending to be a Hansel boy here, but he's under apprenticeship. And this is the skiing holiday we didn't go on. No, it was France. It was called off. Everybody had COVID anyway, so we couldn't have gone. So we've said goodbye to Daniel first of all. He went back off to London town. Thomas and Matthew were due to go back in the new year. Matthew, the trendy haircut and even trendier polo neck jumpers. And my boys are all in good shape. And that is 2021. Bye-bye.